for the perfect wedding present this season? Look no further. We are going to make this. I'm Gemma from Concrete Gems Crochet, and today I want to make a wedding blanket with you. Now, we're not going to make the whole thing here because it will take years probably to do a whole film of it, but I am going to show you how to make a swatch, and I'll tell you exactly how to make everything that you need to make this lovely blanket. Now, this is a large blanket. Without the border, it's going to be 47 inches by 59 inches. The border adds another inch to each side, and so it's big, basically. It's made using overlay mosaic crochet, and let's go and have a look at the yarn we're going to use. I used Brava Recycle for this project. It's a DK weight yarn, and it has 306 yards per 100 grams. I used 3 colours, Rayan, Diggle and Zeke. However, you can use any DK that you want for this project. An acrylic is quite good for the blanket, but you can equally use a cotton or anything else you prefer. There are a few alternatives listed in the pattern, but you could use Stylecraft Special DK, you could use Hayfield Bonus DK, you could use Swish DK. Really, the possibilities are endless, but you're going to want 3 colours in different shades of grey. I mean, you could use a different colour palette, so shades of blue or something. You could use the wedding colours that the person's chosen, but I chose to use grey because it's kind of like a silhouette style photo, okay? And you want 3 colours. I'm going to show you later how we are going to work with 3 colours, so do not worry about that. You'll also need a 4mm crochet hook, or the hook needed to match the gauge. I'm using this lovely one from Burls, which is really stunning and gorgeous. And then you're going to need some scissors, also beautiful scissors. I got those from the Yarn Whisperer if you're interested, and a needle to sew in your end. But don't worry, although it is overlay mosaic crochet, we are not going to be sewing in that many ends. We're going to be using the envelope border technique, so it will all be fine. So let's talk a little bit about overlay mosaic crochet, which is the technique used for this blanket. Now, you work on the right side of the blanket only. This is the reverse side, kind of looks like stripes. And we work 1 colour per row. So in this case, one of the rows we're working this very light colour, and then the other row we're either working the middle grey or the darker grey. And that is how we get our 3 colours. It looks complicated, but it's really not. You're either going to be working single crochets in the back loops of each stitch across, or you'll be working mosaic double crochets, which are these ones that you can see here. That's a single crochet that you can see there. You won't see that many of them because most of them are hidden behind the mosaic double crochets. Okay, this tutorial uses US crochet terms, I should say that now. So where I'm saying a single crochet and a double crochet, it's in US terms, and that is what I'm going to be carrying on with throughout. So to do overlay mosaic crochet, you essentially work from right to left if you're right-handed, or from left to right if you're left-handed. And then at the end of each row, you're going to cut your yarn, and you're going to then go back to the beginning of the row and rejoin your new yarn. So you're going to end up with loads and loads and loads of ends hanging off the end either side. But as I said, we're going to use an envelope border to kind of hold them all together. To make this pattern, you're going to need to get the written pattern. Now, you can get the straightforward written pattern on the blog for free for subscribers, or you can download the PDF pattern from Etsy or Ravelry, and that includes stitch charts. It also includes options for a smaller blanket, a more simplified blanket without so many of the different colour changes, and also a chart for the swatch, which I'm going to show you now. And I think that's it really. I think we should now get started. One last thing to mention, we are using 3 colours and it is quite a complex pattern, but don't worry about mistakes. If you miss a mosaic double crochet somewhere along the way, it won't matter unless you're working on the faces. Okay, so make sure you're careful over the faces and also the words. Otherwise you might not spell our wedding, you might spell something else, so just watch out for that. But please don't stress about changing colour at the right time. If you're doing your single crochets, it doesn't actually matter where you change colour, because as long as there's going to be a mosaic double crochet on the next row, then it's going to be covered anyway, so it actually doesn't matter so much. So let's just chill and enjoy making the pattern, shall we? So this is the stitch chart that I'm going to be working from for this swatch. It's just a small portion of the faces, and so it's a miniature version of the actual blanket pattern, and you'll actually find that the chart for the blanket pattern looks exactly like this in the PDF. So how we work our chart, I'll show you the key first. You can see we've got, if it's a blank square with nothing in, just a colour, we're doing a single crochet in the back loops only. However, we just need to remember one little thing. The key says that these colours are SC and BLO, and then the different yarn colours. But actually, if you are working an odd numbered row, which is a yarn A row, and it's got different colours, ignore the different colours. That's always going to be in yarn A on odd numbered rows, okay? And then if you've got an X in your box, that means you need to work a mosaic double crochet. A V at the start means the first stitch, and we're going to do all of the first stitches as single crochets through both loops, okay? Every other stitch is through the back loops if it's a single crochet, and the front loops if it's a mosaic double crochet. And then we have the last stitch. The last stitch is always a single crochet through both loops, and the colours show you which colour to use for that. Okay, so I think it's now time to actually get our hook and get started. Okay, so we're going to start with our yarn B, and we're going to start by making a foundation single crochet. Now this is the very first row, which will make for your blanket pattern as well as for the swatch, and you can do a normal foundation chain and then single crochet back across, but I prefer to use the foundation single crochet, and I'll show you how to do it now. So we put a slip knot on our hook and we chain 2, and I'm going to work 30 stitches because that's how big my swatch is. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert our hook. I like to go into the back bumps, but you can go into the normal chain. Insert your hook into the chain, yarn over and pull through. Then we yarn over and pull through 1, and then we yarn over and pull through 2. So what we're doing here is we're basically creating the chain and the single crochet in one. So to do the next stitch, you insert your hook into this chainy bit here where we did our chain 1, and yarn over and pull through. Then we yarn over and pull through 1, and that's our chain, and then we yarn over and pull through 2, and that's our single crochet. Okay, so I'll show you again. You go into this stitch here, yarn over and pull through, yarn over, pull through 1, which creates our chain, and then yarn over and pull through both to create the single crochet. And we're just going to carry that on across to make our 30 stitches. Now don't worry with the swatch if the yarns are the other way around. Just follow the chart or make your own swatch if you're not going to use this swatch. Follow the chart for the colours. So the V here is a white one, so our row 1 is going to be the light colour. But I'm just doing a foundation row first, and I'm doing that in the medium colour, okay? Okay, so I have finished my foundation single crochet now. It's 30 stitches long. This is just for my swatch. Swatch is a really good idea to check the gauge and to make sure you know how to do the stitches, so this is a great practice. So I'm just going to cut my yarn at the end of that row, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull through to fasten that off. So that is the foundation single crochet row done, and now we're going to move on to the first row. So our tension should be 17 stitches by 17 rows, and we'll be able to measure that once we've made our swatch, okay? And you can just make a swatch using whatever kind of pattern of mosaic crochet you like, but it's a good way to practice and see if you like the pattern as well. So we're going to rejoin our yarn into the first stitch, and now we're going with our yarn A, which is our pale colour, as you can see from the chart here. So we're going to join it through both loops of that first stitch. So if you remember, the first stitch and the last stitch are single crochet through both loops for every row. So I do a chain 1 to secure the first stitch, and then we're going to do our single crochet. Okay, so that's into that first stitch. Then we're going to have a look at the chart. Move the yarn out of the way, and our row 1, we can just look across and it is all single crochets in the back loops apart from that last stitch. So we can just go ahead and do that now. So we insert our hook into the back loop only. You can see that that is the back loop. That's where we normally go with both loops. So go into the back loop, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through 2, and that is our single crochet. And we're just going to continue that all the way across. Okay, so I've got to the last stitch now, and I'm going to do my final single crochet through both loops to finish this row, and then we're going to cut our yarn off and chain 1 to finish off and pull it through. Okay, so that is our first row completed, and now we're going to move on to row 2. So you see row 2 here is in the really darker one, so that's the one we're going to use to start with. And our first 2, so that's our single crochet through both loops, and then we've got our first 2 stitches, our mosaic double crochets, which are then in the front loops. Okay, so let's find the end of this and join on our darker yarn. So we go through both loops of that first single crochet. Remember, we don't turn our work at all when we're doing overlay mosaic crochet. We're always working on the front. So chain 1 and do that single crochet through both loops. Okay, so then we're going to do a mosaic double crochet. So we yarn over, we set our hook into the front loop of the row 2 rows below. Okay, so it's this darker one. Okay, yarn over and pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. I'll show you one more time. We yarn over, we go into that front loop there, yarn over and pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, so let's now take a look at our chart again. So the next stitch here is in the medium grey, and that is a mosaic double crochet there. So I will show you now how to change colour, and what we actually need to do is we need to back up a little bit. So we are going to undo that last yarn over and pull through. So we've got those 2 loops on the hook, and that stitch is partly completed. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're going to grab our other colour yarn, our medium grey, going to pop it on top of the hook like that, and then pull it through, and that finishes off that stitch. Now we're going to want to carry our yarn across our work, because we can see that we're going to use those dark colours again. If you're not going to use them again, or you're not going to use them for a long time in the blanket, then I would fasten off. You save yarn that way, and it's not so messy. But in this case, we can just carry on here. So we do a mosaic double crochet. So we yarn over, insert our hook into that loop, and I'm going to capture those two ends in there as well, okay? Then we yarn over and pull through two, yarn over, pull through two. And that is our next stitch. Then we look on our chart and we can see that next we've got a single crochet in the back loop. So you're going to make sure that those ends are back. We're going to go into that back loop, grab our ends. Now you don't have to enclose your ends in every single stitch. Sometimes you might get it here, for example, where you can see a bit of black, and you might not like that. So that is fine to just leave it hanging like that. Okay, so next we've got these 3 white squares. So they are single crochets in the back loops, but they're white because they're going to be covered by these mosaic double crochets from above, okay, from the next row. So we can just do, it doesn't actually matter what colour we do these single crochets in, because they're going to be hidden by the white or the light grey. So we're going to go ahead now and do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 more single crochets. Okay, all in the back loops, enclosing that yarn as we go. So I've done my 10th and I've started my 11th single crochet in the back loop, and as you can see from the chart, our next stitch is going to be a mosaic double crochet in our darker colour. So we're going to do exactly the same as we did before. So I've done the first part of the single crochet in the light colour, and then the last part I'm just going to yarn over with my dark colour and pull through. Okay, and then we're going to do a mosaic double crochet through, whoops, in the front loop here, if I can find the front loop, like so. But then again, we're going to change colour again, so we shouldn't have finished that stitch. So I'm just going to back up again and undo that and grab my other colour. So you see, it's really important to keep the colours coming along with you, because you'll need them for the next few stitches. So that's that one, and then again we swap to the dark. So this is really good practice for doing the colour changes. So we yarn over, go into that front loop, 2 rows below, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 and stop. Then we find the next colour, yarn over, pull through the final 2. And we yarn over into that front loop, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2, because we are now here. So now we've got 3, 6, 7 single crochets in this, in whatever colour you like, because they're hidden beneath the white ones. And then we need a single crochet in the dark colour. So we're going to have to change colour again in a minute, but it doesn't actually matter where you change colour. I was a bit short on one of my colours, so I made sure to use the other colour more often, and you can do that if you wish, or you can just change at the end, or however you like to do it. Doesn't matter, as long as there's a mosaic double crochet hiding it from above. So I have done 2, 4, 5, 6, 6. So this is the last one. So I've done part of the stitch, and then I'm going to grab my other yarn and pull through with that one and do my next single crochet in that stitch like that. Then we've just got 2 mosaic double crochets and our single crochet through both loops to finish off this row. Oopsie. There we go. And that's our final stitch through both loops. And there we have it. And that was a really good way to learn how to do the colour changes and everything for that one. So I'm going to cut both of those ends. We don't need those for the next row. Just yarn over and pull that through. Okay, and then we have done row 2. So we can move on to row 3, which is just with our single yarn A, and we're going to join it in the same way. And now it's really just about following the chart. In the pattern you'll have the actual pattern, you'll have it written out as well. So if you prefer to follow it with written words, then you can do that too. So row 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, we've got 4 single crochets in the back loops. Okay. And then we're going to do 3 mosaic double crochets here. Okay, so that's those 3. And we've got 4 single crochets. Followed by 3 mosaic double crochets. Now, in some cases it will be obvious if you've gone wrong, because, oopsie, for example here you couldn't do a mosaic double crochet into this white stitch because it's not there. But in other cases it won't be so obvious if you've missed a stitch. But as I said, it doesn't actually matter in the majority of cases if you make a mistake. And if you do and you want to add in a missing mosaic double crochet, then I have a video on how to do that up here. Or will it be up there? I've already linked one already. Can't link another one. I'll link it in the description, okay? Okay, so we've done those 3. Now we're on to 4 single crochets, which you can see go in the back of these 4 stitches here. And then we're going to do 7 mosaic double crochets. And you can really see where these fit in because there's space for them. Okay, so I think we are getting the idea of this now. Hopefully you can see it quite well on the video and follow along. And then to do the actual pattern, you're going to need either the chart or the written instructions, whichever you find easiest. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I've done 7 there. And then we've got 3 here, 3 single crochets in the back loops, and then 1 single crochet in both loops. And as I said, just because it's black on the picture, it doesn't mean it's black in real life. When you're working with this colour, your single colour row is always going to be with this colour. It's only when you do the row with the 2 colours that you need to keep changing. Okay, whoops. So that's the end of that row. I'm going to fasten that one off. And I'll do a few more rows with you to show you. And then I will let you go away and complete the swatch on your own. Okay, so row 4, we start with a dark colour, which I have here. So we're going to join that again. Oops. And then just chain 1 to secure it and single crochet through both loops. Okay, so then we're going to do this first stitch, 1 single crochet in the back loop, and then we are going to, hard to see the pattern and the yarn, isn't it? And my yarn's too tight. Right, here we are. So next we have a mosaic double crochet. And I'm just going to look ahead because after that we're going to need to join in our grey again, our medium grey. So let's get hold of that one and place that over and pull it through, and that finishes off that mosaic double crochet. And we've got two mosaic double crochets in the lighter colour. So I'm going to capture those ends again. That's it. There you go. And then we've got 3 single crochets in the back loops. And just make sure that when you're doing it that you don't accidentally increase by going into a single crochet stitch where you've already done a mosaic double crochet, and vice versa. It's very easy to lose stitches on this pattern as well. So just watch out for it, alright? Okay, so then we need 2 more mosaic double crochets. White paper makes my desk look really yellow. We've got 2, 4, 5 single crochets. So you see there, I didn't bother enclosing those 2 ends in the mosaic double crochets. I just carried them across those 2 stitches, and now I'm enclosing them in the single crochets, and I just think that's a little bit neater, but you can do it however you like. Okay, so that's those 5. Then we've got 2 grey ones and then 2 black ones. So my first grey one, the second grey one, which I won't complete, and then we'll get hold of our dark yarn. I'm calling it black, but is it really black? Not sure. And do 2 of those. Okay, then we're going to switch again to grey. So I'm just going to back up again, grab the grey. If you try and keep them the same way round, it makes it a lot easier. So that's that single crochet, but then we've got 5 more that we can just do with this grey before we switch back over to the black again. Okay, is that right? 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6. Yes, so we need to undo that a little bit. Join the black. And then what have we got to finish? We've got 3 mosaic double crochets in the black. Be careful not to catch your other ends in it. And then we do our single crochet through both loops to finish. And we can then fasten off that those 2 colours. And you can see we've got all our ends just dangling at the moment. don't worry about those. I will show you how to do that when we finished our swatch. Okay, so that was row 4. I think you may have now got the hang of it. Shall I do one more row just to make sure? So this is our row 5, which for this swatch is a lighter colour, the yarn A. Again, I've joined it through both loops and chained 1 to secure it. Then I'm going to do a single crochet. Okay, lost what row it is, row 5. So we've got a mosaic double crochet to start. Then we've got 3 single crochets in the back loops. Remember, it doesn't matter that they are showing up as black, but they are just this colour all the way across this row. Okay, then I've got 3 mosaic double crochets. Oops. And then we've got 3 single crochets in the back loops. Four mosaic double crochets. Then we've got 2, 4, 5 single crochets. I think this would be such a great gift for someone getting married, for a lovely married couple. Something they would cherish forever, a proper heirloom kind of a thing. Right, 5 mosaic double crochets. And I would have loved to got one when I got married. I think it's just a really nice thing to do for somebody. Crocheted with love and all that. That's 5. Then we've got 4 single crochets and our single crochet through both loops. Now this is one where you won't need to be careful because we need to go into that stitch because there's nothing there. So just double check you're going into the right stitch when it's not obvious. Okay, so there we have that. Now, I know it's a pain doing a swatch, especially doing a swatch of this size, but it's a really good way to practice the stitches and a really good way to make sure your blanket's going to be the right size. Obviously, it's up to you. If you don't want to do the swatch, that's fine, but I'm using the swatch to show you how the blanket's made, and this is an actual extract from it, so it really makes sense. So I think we can now go ahead and do the rest of these rows ourselves, and I will meet you back here when you're finished to show you how to do a border. Okay, so there we have our swatch completed, and then you can use that to measure. So what you're going to do is you lay your tape measure on and measure 4 inches. You can mark it with a pin if you like, and then count how many stitches you've got, and then do the same for the number of rows, and you should have 17 stitches and 17 rows to match the gauge, and that will mean that your blanket will be the same size as mine. So after you have completed your whole blanket, following the chart or the written instructions as you prefer, you can then go on to making the border. So the border looks like this. As you can see, it's 2-sided and it covers up the edges and all of those ends. And that's what we're going to do now. So first thing we need to do is we need to tie our ends into pairs. So you're just going to grab a couple of the ends and tie them in a double knot, okay? And just keep going along doing that until they're all tied into knots. And then once you've done that, you're going to grab a pair of scissors and you're going to cut your ends so that they're about 1 inch long, okay? So there we go. And next we are going to, I'm going to start in the bottom because I don't like having my join at the top. We're going to join our yarn seat and we're going to do surface slip stitch all the way around our blanket, okay? So in the top and the bottom, it's as simple as going into each stitch and doing a slip stitch. If you don't lose your yarn, oh dear. Okay, try to keep it nice and loose. That's my problem, that's why it keeps falling off, because I'm trying to keep it loose as you go along, so that it doesn't pucker up your blanket. Don't want to ruin it now that we've spent so long making it. Okay, and I'll just show you what it looks like when we get to the sides, okay? So you just keep working along, going into each stitch. So you go into it, you grab the yarn from behind, pull it through and then pull it through the loop. Right, and then when you get to the sides, we're going to be working between the first and the second stitch, okay? Let me go in a little bit more so you can see. So you've got your first stitches here and then your second stitch here. So we're going to be going into these holes here. So we need one more along the bottom before we turn. And then we're going to go into each stitch along the side. Okay. Just the same way, but this time we're working into that space. Just watch out for your ends and for your hook falling off all the time. Okay, so just carry on that all the way around, going into each, either the row end spaces between the first and the second stitches, or into the actual stitch if you're on the top or the bottom. And I will see you when you have done that. I've gone all the way around now with my surface slip stitch, and I'm just going to finish off this join here with an invisible join. Okay, so I'm going to cut my yarn and pull up through that final stitch, and then I'm going to grab my needle and I'm going to go into that first stitch through both legs of it as if I would normally for a crochet stitch, and then I'm going to go down with my needle down the hole of that stitch we came out of, okay? And that basically creates another crochet stitch. And then what you can do on the back, whoops, is you can just tie your two ends together, because we are going to encase that in the envelope, so we don't need to worry too much about that. So I can chop that down as well, and then we're ready to move on to the next part of the border. So we're going to turn our work over now, and we're going to work the back of the envelope first. So you can start in any stitch that you like, it doesn't matter at all. Join your yarn and chain 2. Now that doesn't count as a stitch, and then we're just going to do a double crochet into each stitch all the way around. Now they can be quite hard to get into, these back loops, but just take your time and persevere with it. Okay. once you get to the corner so you'll have, oh, I've got a big knot. You'll have a so you can see here you've got one stitch on this side and then one stitch on the going to be on the other side. Between those two you want to do a chain 3. Okay, and that's it really. So we're just going to DC into each of these. So there's only going to be one loop on the back. When we get to the front it will look slightly different, but we will look at that when we get there. So I think you can just go ahead and do that. Double crochet in every stitch and then 3 chains between each of the corner stitches. And then once you've gone all the way round, you're going to join into that first double crochet, missing out the chain 2 with a slip stitch, and then we're going to go for round 2. Round 2 is chain 1 and then single crochet in the back loop only. So we just repeat that all the way around. And when you get to the corner, you're going to do single crochet, chain 1, single crochet into the corners. Okay, so repeat that all the way around, and then we're going to need to do the same on the other side. So for round 1, you're going to be working into that back loop, if you can see, of our surface crochet. So you're going to work your DC round all the way around with your chain 3s in the corners, and then you're going to work a round of single crochet in the back loops with single crochet, chain 1, single crochet in the corners. And when you've done all of that, then we can join the 2 parts of the envelope together. And then when we get to the end, we're going to join with our invisible join again. I'll just do that quickly here. Do those 2 loops, round and down through that stitch to the bottom, and tie those 2 ends together as before. Okay, so now we've got our 2 parts of the envelope, as you can see here, and we need to join them together. So we're going to join them with single crochet through both, through the back loops again. Through the back loops, okay? So you're just going to join in any stitch, make sure to line them up, of course. So we're going to insert our hook into the back loop of this piece and then the back loop of the other piece, so that actually looks like the 2 loops that are closest together in the middle. So it's the loop furthest from you in the front piece and the loop closest to you in the back piece. And we're going to join our yarn again and chain 1, and then we're going to do a single crochet into that same stitch. And then we're going to continue that all the way around. So going through those middle 2 loops and with a single crochet. Okay, so just continue that all the way around. And when you get to the end, you can join them back together with an invisible join again. And then you will have your blanket completed. So there we have it. This will give you an idea of what your full blanket's going to look like. I finished going around joining my border, and you can see how there are no ends left. I literally have one last end which I joined with an invisible join, and then I wove in 2 ends, and that was it after all of those ends for that blanket. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you're going to make the full blanket, not just a little swatch, and I'd love for you to come over to Facebook or Instagram and share it with me. That's all for now. I'll see you again soon for another crochet tutorial or pattern really soon. Bye for now.